I believe I've found the greatest shots from the 2021 World Championships, but how good are these shots really, and how difficult are they to play? Well, I thought I'd find out, so
I'm going to try to recreate them as accurately as possible
in the fewest possible attempts, and hopefully by doing that, find out which shot is the best. I'm going to start off by trying to recreate the BBC shot of the championships, but I feel they didn't get everything, so afterwards I'm going to have a go at a few shots I think they missed. And that starts with this shot from Anthony McGill against Ricky Walden. It only ended up scoring him 1 point, but it got him out of a lot of trouble. I'm using a lot of backspin and a small amount of left-hand side to try and spin the cue ball into the red, which wasn't going so well until I managed to get it on my third attempt, although interestingly I managed to fluke the other red off the yellow twice.
Thought I got that in one, but unfortunately jammed it in the pocket. That's definitely a tough one out the way early, although they're all difficult shots on this list.
Talking of difficult shots, we got this one from Ronnie O'Sullivan, managing to pot a red at a tight angle from deep in the jaws of the pocket.
With the cue ball this close to the pocket, it's actually going to be pretty easy to play a stun shot. The difficult bit is going to be playing it accurately.
I was playing really well at this stage and it felt like I'd potted the red every single time I hit the cue ball, but you had to be so accurate with this one. The tight angle just made it really difficult. The next shot is also from Ronnie, but this time it's all about position, as it's incredibly difficult to get on the red here.
I think with this one, what I'm going to really struggle with is hitting it hard enough, with the cue ball being this close to the green.
This shot requires a lot of backspin and right-hand side, and it's shots like this that Ronnie believes are changing the game at the moment, because players are no longer rolling up behind a bolt colour and playing the snooker, they're risking screwing the cue ball back down the table. I ended up the wrong side of the blue here, but managed to leave myself a good enough pot on the red, so I was happy enough with it. Next is the did he or didn't he play it Mark Williams shot, where he turns down a tough plant to play safe, but also pots the red off the black at the same time. This shot requires a small amount of right hand side and backspin to screw the cue ball safe back down the table. The pot, however, is a little bit different and just requires a lot of accuracy in hitting the black. It's definitely a very difficult shot, but it's probably a tiny bit easier than it looks.
I genuinely believe he played that, because if you hit the right side of the black, that's just where the red's going to go. So it's a tough shot, but it's not quite as difficult as you think it's going to be.
Mark Allen hadn't quite left enough of this red visible past the green for Mark Selby to be able to pot it, so he manages to play this cue ball back down the table and get the snooker in behind the yellow. This was probably the best safety shot of the tournament, all things considered. You don't need to do anything complicated with this shot, like playing it with a lot of side spin. It's just a normal plain ball shot, but getting the angle right is really difficult. The main problem here was the setup. If I position the balls very slightly out, then I'd end up going in off or hitting the other reds on the way down, because you had to get the cue ball very close to the corner pocket in order to get this shot right. It probably took me about 6 attempts before I was happy with the position of the red, but once I got it in the correct position, it was just a case of playing the shot at the right pace. But it's also the speed of the shot that's difficult to allow for. You've actually got to play this one quite a bit harder than you think you have to here, because it's actually quite a thick shot. Considering all of this, I was quite happy to get this as quickly as I did, even if I did double the red, which Selby was probably also playing.
That actually took quite a long time, but that was mostly because I wasn't quite sure exactly where the balls needed to go, and that just made it harder. We've got a Yang Bingtao shot to come after we find Samuel, who's from Cardiff in the United Kingdom.
Jan's out of position on the yellow here, but manages to pot it and play the cue ball round 5 cushions to end up on the red. This is going to require a slight stun shot with a lot of right hand side.
To get the cue ball all the way around the table here, I am really going to have to hit this one well.
And that was obviously going to make the pot difficult, but what really surprised me when I potted it on my second attempt is I actually managed to hit it too hard on the perfect line, and I discovered the red actually went between the green and the brown here, so I was happy enough with it. The next shot is Stuart Bingham finding a way to get out of a difficult position, but I'm not sure this is how I would have played it.
When I saw this, I thought the best shot to play was that red in the middle because I didn't fancy getting this first time.
Not only do you have to play this with a lot of side spin, but it's also advisable to play it with a bit of backspin as well. This helps straighten the cue ball up off the cushion, and on my second attempt I somehow jammed the red in the pocket. My third though double kissed it in. Mark Williams again now with a perfectly executed shot from under the baulk cushion to finish nicely on the black. This doesn't require a lot of spin as it's just a stun shot, but the pot itself is really difficult because you're so close to the baulk cushion. I was happy to get it first time but got nowhere near the black, so I had to try again and play the shot with a lot less stun. I eventually worked out how much stun to put on the cue ball and was pretty happy to get this after just 4 attempts.
I was pleased to get that first time, just didn't really realise how little backspin it actually needed. We're going to be needing this for the next shot after we find De Devil from Groningen in the Netherlands, which is there.
I probably wouldn't have included this one from Shaun Murphy as it's a pretty straightforward rest shot, although it's a good shot under pressure and it was a very significant shot in the semi-final to start off his comeback. And don't be fooled, even though I managed to pot this on my first attempt, I don't hit it hard enough to get out for the green. This requires a lot of topspin and a lot of pace to get the cue ball in position, and it's also a difficult pot down the cushion. Shaun desperately needed this as well to remain in contact in the semi-final, which would have made it harder still.
Although that didn't seem too difficult, that would have been a tough one to pot under pressure.
We've got another shot from Mark Selby, this time potting his way out of trouble in the final. He even gave himself a good chance of winning the frame here.
Although the pot is tough, what I'm really worried about is judging the cannon.
I don't think Mark was attempting to cannon the black on into the opposite corner pocket, but because that's what he played, that's what we've got to try to do. This requires stunning it exactly the right amount, and I kept getting close, but unfortunately the cannons weren't quite going right and I wasn't pushing it on into this pocket. The shot itself is just a stun shot, and it's pretty comfortable to be able to stun the cue ball enough to be able to cannon the black. The difficult thing is getting that cannon right and getting the right amount of stun on it, and the fact that the red's down the cushion and the cue ball's in the jaws of the yellow pocket make it even tougher. This gave Mark a great chance to come back into the frame, but ultimately he didn't end up winning it. Now for some bonus shots that I've chosen myself. This was the winning shot against Kyren Wilson in the semi-final from Shaun Murphy. He plays a plant that becomes a double and gets the cue ball in behind the black. However, I sort of forget about that.
So I forgot I was supposed to be playing with snooker there, but I was pleased to get it first time either way.
In the next shot, Mark Selby pots a long difficult red and screws the cue ball all the way back into baulk. Unfortunately, we don't quite see how far the cue ball goes because the director decides to look instead at Mark Allen's head.
Well, I guess it's time to find out how well the cue action's working today.
Unfortunately, as it turned out, not that well. This shot just requires a lot of backspin as it's a fairly straight shot. I managed to get it in 3 attempts but didn't get the cue ball back as far as I would have liked. Next we have Mark Selby again, which should be unsurprising because he did win the World Championships, this time with a pressure pot of his own. When all the momentum was with Stuart Bingham, he managed to knock this yellow in out of nowhere and win the frame. It was shots like these in the semi-final and final that allowed Mark Selby to stay in contact with his opponent when they were in the ascendancy.
Without doubt, that was one of the many pressure pots that won Mark Selby the World Championships.
Talking of pressure pots, we got another one from Shaun Murphy, and this was absolutely critical in his semi-final match against Kyren Wilson. I got the shot first time, just forgot to give it the fist bump.
So to finish off with, how about this Judd Trump-like shot from Mark Selby?
I'm pretty sure that both the BBC and Eurosport left this one off their list, which is a shame because it's a really good pot and positional shot. Unfortunately, Mark just about snookers himself behind the black and can't quite see the red. However, it's still a great pot and a great cannon from that position, because the angle isn't really there. To get around the brown and cannon the red, I'm having to play it with a small amount of right hand side, and also play it at full power, which is making the shot really difficult and missable. You also have a really small margin for error to be able to hit the side cushion and not hit the jaws of the middle pocket, and be able to get the cue ball around the brown. Eventually I managed to do it, and I was pretty happy with the result.
I also wanted to include this shot from Stuart Bingham, but thought it was too much of a fluke and was worried that I'd never actually get it. But you can still vote for any of the other 15 shots, the link's in the description, and I'll announce the winner next week at some point if I remember.
If you want to see more videos like this where I recreate shots, have a look at these two where I've recreated shots from the Masters and the UK Championships. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.